All right. Welcome everyone to the Coaches Networking Group. Really excited to see everybody here. Today we have a phenomenal guest. Stephen McGhee is coming to join us today. Stephen is a leadership coach. He's been in the leadership space for over 30 years. Um, can you put yourself on mute there? Thank you so much. And I'm really excited for this conversation today. Stephen, the first time that I connected with you was on a post that you made in the Ultimate Coach Facebook group around enrollment. And
Yeah.
I had such a connection with that when I read that. It was such a it touched something inside of me when I read that. And that was my first experience with you, and it was very meaningful. So I wanted to say thank you for that, and thank you for everything that you've shared. And the next time that I got connected with you was recently here a couple months ago. It was a real gift to connect with you, and I really appreciate our conversation. It made a big difference for me. So thank you for that.
You're so very welcome, Robert.
So I want to create a little bit of context for the conversation today. If you're calling in, if you can be on video, that would be wonderful. Everybody who's here, please turn on your video if you can. Also want to enroll everybody into being fully present and attentive with what Stephen's going to share today. Stephen has a lot of years of experience and is one of the best leadership coaches, in my opinion, in the entire world. And the more presence and attention you bring to this, the better the experience will be for you. So I invite you to that. And also, if you can, as Stephen's going to be sharing, I have a question for you, Stephen, to start out. But before we get to that, start to think about a question that you would have. Stephen has been doing this 30 plus years, right, Steve? You've been doing this, Stephen?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hard to believe, but true. Time has really flown by.
Yeah. So start to think of a question that you may have that would serve you. And I have a question, something that I haven't heard a lot about in the um, not directly in the leadership space or the coaching space, but it's something I'm really curious about is how does prayer and meditation and spirituality, how does that work into um, your coaching and your leadership? That's been something that's been really meaningful to me. Has made a big difference for me. And I don't hear a lot of coaches talk about prayer and meditation and spirituality a whole lot. And I think it's a topic that I'd love to talk about because it's one that I don't hear a lot of coaches talk about.
Yeah. Well, firstly, I want to just slow down just a moment and say how grateful I am to be here with all of you. I'm just looking at the screens and the faces and the presencing that you're already bringing to the call, which I think is of huge importance for any of us that want to deepen our own lives, but more importantly, as men and women of transformation, that presencing, that way of being, the quietude inside transmits to those that we share with and that we talk to. So thank you for your presence today, Robert. Thank you for holding the sacred container for the conversation today. I have no idea where this is going to go. I never do. My friend Steve Chandler said once to me jokingly, but also he was serious when he said, "Everything I do is very carefully planned." And I would say everything I do is very carefully planned, and I would want you to know that I'm kidding about that. And it really speaks to Robert's first question because I'm a deeply spiritual man, and so prayer and meditation is hugely important to me. It's something that I do every morning and every night. Sometimes it's only a few minutes, and sometimes I get more time with prayer and meditation. But what I find is the great gift from it is surrender. And if I come to my sessions, or I come to conversations, or I come to a podcast, or I come to writing an email, or I come to sending a text, with some preconceived idea or linear function of what I want to bring, it may not be the thing that that person needs. It might not even be the most authentic thing for me to bring. So, is it nerve-wracking at times to not know what I'm going to say or not know what I'm going to do? Absolutely. But as I've practiced it over the years, it becomes less and less nerve-wracking and more authentic. And so, honesty is a word that is near and dear of value to me. But the Latin derivation of honesty, or rather honest, is to be one with what is. So as I pray, as I meditate, as I surrender, I can be more real with what is. And so it's not a particular religion for me. I'm more ecumenical in nature. So even if a person would say to me, well, gosh, I'm not a believer in something bigger than me or a God per se, there's still our mind, right? That we can surrender to that, that we don't have to have it overtake, who we be and what we say and how we think and honestly, how we project our own thoughts, our own opinions, our own judgments onto other people. It's sometimes unbeknownst to me. Like it's not something that's intentional. Do I still do it at this time in my life? Yes. I'm more quick to catch it. My goal is not to never have the downtime. There's my buddy Matt Clemmer. What a joy. Matt's gonna do a tattoo for me one day soon. We haven't picked a date yet, but that'll be a great surrender because I'll be saying to my brother Matt, hey, whatever you want to tattoo, let's go for it, my friend. But back to Robert's question, it's just a big part of my life. And hey, listen, I think each of us can find ways that we do it. But even if it's in a moment, before we enter into a conversation, just to reset, drop into our heart, drop into, our way of being, just that moment between what we're doing and who we're being can make a tremendous difference, I think, in how we serve the other people in our world, how we serve our clients. So, Robert, that's the short answer to the question, but I really appreciate the question because it's a great place to start with this whole topic.
Yeah, and what does your heart, is there something on your heart that you feel would be really meaningful to share with the people that are here today?
Well, there's so many things that I could share. There's so many directions we can go, but I think that, we could talk a little bit about enrollment. It's a word that I think is used a lot in our space, whether you're a life coach or you're a business coach, you're a performance coach, or you're a leadership coach. One of the things that drives our business, if we look at it from a result place, is enrollment. But that's an oxymoron because the second we move into trying to get, the second we try to impress, the second we're, moving from a place of I need a client and I wonder if they can pay for it. I don't know how many of you have ever done this, but I've done it a lot in my 30 years where I'm sitting there in a conversation with another human being and I'm starting to think, I wonder if they could afford my fee. Like I'm kind of listening for, where do they live? What zip code are they in? What's their job? And boy, I've watched my mind, the monkey mind, go crazy on that. And the moment I do that, I'm out of service, I'm out of enrollment because the overarching definition of enrollment is really, in my mind and in my heart, is to touch deeply, to move, to inspire another individual toward what's possible for them in their life. And it has nothing to do with what I want. It has nothing to do with what I think they need. And so the listening has to broaden. And listening now becomes a huge factor in enrollment. And I think most of us, including yours truly, have had to unwind a lot of what I learned about listening because most people listen for agreement. They're listening for a way to enter their intellectual capital or their opinion or how smart we are about that particular subject. And so I'm big on, and I'm happy to send both the art, the mastery of enrollment to anybody here. Also, I did a very short one piece on leadership and Socratic method. And so, in terms of enrollment, one thing that has really served me, gang, is to go to the source. Like, and it's not to say I don't read new books that come out, I do. But when I hear about something like Aristotle or Pythagoras or Socratic method, I go and I read, what did Socrates have to say about listening? Who was Homer being when he was sharing stories? How come Jesus Christ is celebrated by billions of people several thousand years later through metaphor, through story, through the historical nature of who he was being as a leader on the planet? So I go to these sage, uh, wise individuals and I seek out, what is Socratic method really? And what kind of space is opened up when one is really listening for the heart of another human being? And it's really, we're nervous, some of us, when there is silence. And so if it's something that you're practicing, you can do systems with it, including counting. Like I've asked this open-ended question, like Robert just did, what's on your heart? But he didn't project anything else on it. He just asked it and he let it fly out into the wind. He let it fly out into the ethers. He let it land into my brain and into my heart. And there's space that happens with Socratic listening. There's deep questions that happen with it. There's a curiosity and a discovery. And all of that now becomes enrollment because now we're inspiring. We're not proving. We're not trying to get. We're not sifting through whether or not they can afford us for our coaching program. We're not even trying to get a client. And now our life becomes what? We are being enrollment. And I saw Gail mouth something, and I think Gail's mouthing something that I want to hear from Gail later. And Gail, what did you say?
He said service.
Service. So Gail's nailed it. That's what I thought. I saw your mouth, your words come out of your mouth was service consciousness. And a person who was like a father to me in my life was a man named John Roger. And John Roger used to say, service is the highest form of consciousness we have available to us. And it has no strings to it, right? It has no, I'm trying to get something from it. So enrollment as a function is a way of being. And in essence, those of us as professional coaches, as professional consultants, or for those of us that really want to embrace service consciousness, we just get to be enrollment. We get to walk in the world as enrollment. So I remember early on in my coaching career, I was at the University of Santa Monica, where I got a degree, and I was later on faculty teaching spiritual psychology. And in in that school in 2002, I was blessed enough to become what they called Student of the Year, which really surprised me because I was sitting in the audience and Dr. Ron and Mary Holnick said, Stephen McGhee's our Student of the Year. And I went up on stage. The reason I share this with you is that the Student of the year before was a man named Steve Hardison. And some of you might have heard of Steve Hardison, who wrote a book that I highly recommend called The Ultimate Coach. Julie's raising her hand. And The Ultimate Coach is a powerful, powerful book if one reads it or listens to it from a place of beingness. And my point in sharing that is at one dinner, I was with Steve Hardison in Phoenix, Arizona, and it was a Mexican food restaurant. And the busboy came to the table just like any busboy, but he had no idea, this busboy, but what he was in for. Because what I watched was Steve Hardison enroll the busboy. And the long story short is he slowed the busboy down and he said, you don't know who I am and I don't know who you are, but my name is Steve Hardison. And what I do is I help people have better lives and I help people transform their lives. And he said, if there was something I could be or do for you, what would it be? And this young man stopped in his tracks from pouring the water and from serving the chips and the salsa at the table. And he began to share how he'd recently gotten a ticket for drunk driving. And because he'd gotten this ticket for drunk driving, he wasn't able to go to the Peace Corps because he was in trouble. And so I watched Steve Hardison for 10, I don't know, time stood still. Can you hear that? When we're enrolling, time stands still. We're not watching the clock, we're beingness. And I watched him beingness with this busboy. And 15, 20 minutes later, he had exchanged cards with this busboy where he had said, hey, if you come to my house tomorrow, here's my address, and you knock on my door at 1 o'clock, not before 1 o'clock p.m., not 2 minutes after 1 o'clock p.m., I will spend 2 hours with you and we will create a way forward for your life. This was a busboy at a Mexican food restaurant who had no money, who was in trouble with the law. That's enrollment. That's service. I guarantee you that young man knocked on Steve Hardison's office door outside of his house near his swimming pool at 1 p.m. because of who he was being. So there was an importance to it. There was an urgency to it. There was a caring in it. There was a service consciousness in it, as Gail pointed out. And now we become that. We're not looking for it. We're being it. Now you go, well, how does he do that through his life? And how does he end up having a thriving 7-figure-a-year practice? Because he's not attached. Here's a little gem. We're highly involved, but we're detached. Can you hear that? How many can hear that? We're highly involved. We're deeply involved. We care. It's not a transaction. It's not something we're trying to get. Now, what I know happened from that was that that young busboy went and told his father about Steve Hardison. And that father went and told his brother, who was the busboy's uncle. And that uncle later became Steve Hardison's client. And I think in those days, his fees were north of $150,000 a year. So this does translate. So I'm not like ungrounded on the planet. I'm very grounded. One of my books was called Get Real. So I'm not living in a fantasy land in terms of my responsibilities financially. But we don't sell coaching, my beloveds. We enroll people in their lives. We enroll people in the possibility of leadership through grace, through caring, through prayer and meditation, which is what Robert asked, whatever that means for you. Why? Because I'm perfectly imperfect. And I screw up all the time, but I'm also quick to come back to self. So one of the things that I coach in people, especially leaders that are influencing sometimes tens of thousands of people, I do a lot of work in the family office space. As a statistic, 95% of generational wealth is gone by the third or the fourth generation of the family that started it. Why? Because they're not aligned. Because father wants the son to be CEO and the son doesn't want anything to do with the seafood business or whatever the business is. So you have this breakdown. So what I do is I offer up alignment. And people go, well, what's alignment? And how does someone get paid a fee for alignment? Because when we connect dots from alignment from first to third to fourth generation, we have a family, a lineage of family members that are aligned on philanthropy, that are aligned on investment strategy, that are aligned on leadership in terms of what the legacy is with the family. So the values become aligned. And when the values become aligned, people are enrolled. And until people are enrolled, okay, hang on, this is something I'm in the midst of trademarking because it's so powerful. We now unleash discretionary energy. And people go, what's discretionary energy? It's the energy we're saving. It's the generosity that we as a human being want to be that we hold back from saying, I love you. I care about you. And also, I might even say to someone, I would love for you to be my client. Now, most coaches won't do that because they're coy. They're being cool. Like my fees, whatever my fee is, and I have a wait list. And I say sometimes that's BS. That's coy. It's not honest. And so I might say to someone, I've got 3 spots open and I'd love for you to have one of them because that would be honest for me. So enrollment is also honest, which I already talked about in terms of the Latin derivation of it. So Robert, I'm going to slow down because I want to leave room for conversation today and other questions. So what else would be valuable for this amazing group of people?
Yeah, that's a great question. Does
What,
anybody have
Robert, what did
something?
you hear
Yeah.
in there that was particularly that resonated with you?
Wow, there was so much, so much. Yeah, I've experienced times when I'm being enrollment, and then I've also experienced times when I'm not being enrollment. And I continue to practice and continue to practice. And one of the things that has what that has shifted for me is before early on in coaching, I would stop altogether if I felt like I wasn't inspired or being enrollment in the moment. That would take me out of the game for quite a while. I wouldn't reach out to people, I wouldn't connect with people. But one of the things that has shifted is that I continue to show up. I continue to do the things and show up, even though sometimes I'm not always being enrollment, but I continue to show up and do it as much as I can to learn how to open to that. Um, and having the values aligned, opening up to discretionary energy is what you shared. And the holding back, yeah, holding back from saying, I love you. I really appreciate you being able to share that deep part of ourselves with another human being or myself with another human being. Um, yeah, I still experience that in my life. And then there are times when I'm wide open. And I guess what comes to me around that is creating that to be wide open all the time. Instead of going through no, I'm close. Yeah, I'm open. Yeah, I'm close. Of being able to create that is the journey of being able to be that, share that all the time and practice that in a way that creates that. I think that's where my experience is around it is wanting to be fully wide open and finding these barriers or these challenges. And I've been listening to some of the content that you have and the videos on YouTube, and you've shared about, leadership isn't always, you didn't say it this way, but this is how I heard it is it's not always sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes it's showing up when it feels hard and the thinking is tough. And, there's some thinking there around that this kind of jumbled up in there and just showing up and showing up and showing up. And so I guess my question would be around that is being wide open in service and enrollment. What, yeah, that's the question is around that.
Well, the more we surrender, and Robert, that's a beautiful question. How many of you can relate to what Robert just said? Like that, like you feeling like one day you're on, one day you're not, one day you're more enrolling, more service concept. One day you don't, you wake up, you're like, I didn't sleep good last night. The baby was crying. I'm worried about money. I don't feel good physically. My spouse is sick. So there's a million things that can happen as we go through building our business. And it's just like being aligned with what's really happening in my life. So I think I'm a very loving man, but I'm not always loving. Now I think love is a behavior. rather than a feeling. So if I don't feel loving, I can still be loving as a behavior. But having said that, and this, for some reason, this surprises some people, but I've got a real edge in my work. I'm not afraid to call a thing a thing. So people think, well, Stephen's always peaceful and he's always the greatest listener or whatever it is. That's not true. I have an edge that I also think is appropriate as we build our practices. And you go, well, what's an edge? And it might be like saying the thing that's hard to say. And it comes through the surrender. Like I asked someone yesterday that's interested in working with me, I said, I have a sense you have an addiction that you haven't shared with me about yet. I may be wrong, but if you have an addiction to something that's running you, I want to know about it before we talk about an agreement. Because in my experience, I've worked with people for months and months and months. And then 6 months into a year-long agreement, I find out about their sex addiction or their alcohol addiction, or they're in a YPO Tiger 21 group and they go away and do blow on weekends and do heavy drinking. So our life as coaches is real, and so are the lives of the people around us. So this isn't about pretension. It isn't like acting as if, we're always peaceful. One example would be, for years I worked with a company called Enlightened Leadership International. And I'm always grateful for what they brought to me. Ed Oakley and Doug Krug. Ed Oakley has since passed. Doug Krug is still living, but the business is gone. And they put me in front of groups, 100 keynotes a year for 5 years. And so you can imagine out of all those speeches, there were times when I would get up on stage in front of 100 people, sometimes 20 people, sometimes 1,000 people, and I didn't feel good, or I was tired, or the plane got in at 3 a.m. because there was snow in Denver, or whatever it is. And I would get up there and I would say, I just want you all to know my plane came in late. I got very little sleep and I'm very fatigued. I'm feeling vulnerable about being tired. And I just want to share that with you because I really want to add value today. How do you think the audience felt when I said that?
Relieved.
They were like, this man is real.
Yeah.
He's not pretending to be the expert. He's not acting as if he's Tony Robbins. And I'm not judging Tony Robbins. I'm just saying, I don't know where the guy always has fire hydrant energy. It's just a lot of energy. So that's not me. So who I am is being authentic with what's real in my moment on the day. Now, that doesn't mean I'm vomiting emotionally on my clients. It means I'm sharing the truth about what's going on so that I can be what? Present, and I can serve them. Sometimes we have full days, sometimes our days aren't so full. It's just being present with what is. So I don't think it's about getting rid of our process. I think it's about limiting the downtime. So what might have taken me 2 days to process through 30 years ago, I get to do it in 2 minutes now. But I get to do it from that place of open-hearted vulnerability. Can you hear that? How many can relate? So that's who we be. And it's all part of enrollment. Julie, I'd love to hear from you. I love how present you've been, Julie, on our call. I'm interested to hear what you have to share.
Yes, I I don't know if you did the landmark education because I hear some words, um, and at landmark we learn about enrollment. It's a big part of the learning there. And one thing that you said that I wrote it in the chat is that I just realized that enrollment is not about enrolling people into buying our services, but enrolling people into the possibilities that they can create for themselves. So it's enrollment in the highest expression of themselves. So it can look funny right now, but it's the first time that I really get it. And for me, it's changed everything, because when you said earlier, Robert, sometimes as coaches, sometimes we have a bad day, we don't feel good, but if it's not about us, it's about making someone see a possibility in our day. I think that just being with someone and making them see a possibility, just that it opens my heart. It makes me feel good. I think that we are too much. I will speak for myself, but I think that I am too much looking at myself and protecting myself and keeping things for myself instead of being of service. So yeah, thank you for that, Stephen.
You're welcome, Julian. Before you go away, I want to ask you a question back. But yes, to your answer about Landmark, a long, long time ago, I've done so much work, but I want to give credit to the term enrollment, which really came from Werner Erhard, who started S trainings, Erhard seminar trainings, long, long, long time ago. And what he said, again, there's source there. And by the way, learning from it's not the messenger, it's the message for me. I want to be really clear about that. So I know how to leave the rest behind, if that makes sense. So people go, well, you studied someone that did this, that, and this. And I go, well, I took the message and I left the messenger behind. And I'm not saying that specifically about Werner, but what I am saying is Werner Erhard was really clear that all enrollment happens through conversation. There was no ambiguity about that. And a lot of coaches are trying to enroll through social media, through their email blast. Now we've got AI, and people are using AI and writing, and I use AI for editing and things like that. But let us be careful that we don't become AI robots in coaching, because we really there's some coaches out there, I won't name names because you may or may not know them and it doesn't matter, but they're saying in 2 years from now, 90% of all life coaches will not have a job. Now, take that in. I don't buy that. I believe the coaches that go in the direction of humanity, that go in the direction of true enrollment and service, are going to have wait lists, because the technology through AI will do a certain amount and it will tell people what they want to hear, but it will not be honest. It will not be transformative. It will not be service consciousness, because it can't. So for those of us that are concerned in any way about AI, go as far in the other direction as you can. I've never been busier in my career now than I am. And I have a business that's thriving at a level that it's better now this year than over 30 years. I'll speak to that more a little bit later. But Julie, you said something I want to deepen a little bit. You said something like, I feel like I'm finally getting enrollment now. What did you mean by that? And give us an example, if you would, please.
Until now, I was a lot, until I met Robert, I was a lot about, I was I believed in that I couldn't be successful as a coach if I don't do all the marketing, a big website with funnels and newsletters and all this stuff. And this kind of stuff, I didn't want to do that. It felt like it felt fake for me. So I thought that I would never be successful because of that. And when I met Robert, I started to remember that exactly that enrollment is about conversation, not social media. and that it was not about me explaining who I am, me talking about my niche, me talking about my service, but more about going out there, having conversations, connecting with people, creating relationships without expectation. And for me, it's huge. It's a game changer. Yeah.
Yeah. So in what way could you be enrollment even more consistent in your life, in your business?
By constantly reminding myself that it's not about me.
I hope everyone could hear that. And that's service consciousness because it's not about me either, Julie. And there's a surrender in that, which goes back to Robert's first question about prayer and meditation. So we allow. It's not like we're in a way we're generating something, but at the end of the day, we're allowing the spirit to move through us as enrollment, which is why we can do it when we have a full day or when we're living our own lives and we have something that happened in our own lives. It's like we get out of our way. And I've never had a day in those years where I shared I was speaking. I can remember times when I was in the back when they were saying Stephen McGhee's going to come talk about this or that. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. That's the kind of fatigue. And then the spirit comes in. And then it's like I just allow that. And that's what I hear Julie saying. So consider the value of the word allow and
Wow.
allowing God, spirit, your mind, a way of being to work with and through you as source in a way that you're surrendered. And we just get out of the way. Now we're just a vessel of love and light and truth and honesty and service. That's a beautiful thing. Julie, thank you so much for your question and your comment.
Thank
Um,
you too.
you're so welcome. My pleasure. Nitu, did I say your name right?
Thank you so much, Stephen. Yes, you're absolutely right. I am Neetu.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. It is like literally a lot to soak in, a lot to learn. Um, with me, I have been into banking, finance, numbers, and 2 years, 2.5 years back, I got laid off, and that just shifted my whole direction. And I happened to meet Robert, who really aligned with where I wanted to lead my practice more with service. But what happens is there is a time when this banker shows up again, and I am looking for numbers. I feel frustrated. I feel I'm not going anywhere. And then, of course, the other feeling then it comes okay when we remind ourselves, okay, this is not, you're no more with the bank. Come to your coaching world and get into service. So, how do still I regulate myself? And of course, you have answered it partly, but I'll still seek a little bit more insight into it. And how do at times slow down and let the spirit guide? So, any tips and anything that you can advise on? Thank you.
Well, so what I'm hearing is you have a distinction between service and your former world of banking. And that's okay. It's not wrong. But what if they were conflated? What if you were to bring together the wisdom from all those years of being a banker, which I was as well? I was an investment banker at Nations Bank.
I see.
So it gave me a language
Mm-hmm.
and an understanding of what it means to be a board of directors and wondering what's happening with the stock price and the margins on the bottom line. So I'm not trying to dismiss my history. I'm using my history as a way of being, as service. So I'm bringing it together, Nutu. So how can you instead? I'm not hearing you judging it. but I'm
Mhm.
hearing a little bit of you saying, I want to separate myself from some part that I used to be. But what if you were to bring it together and allow service to guide it as together rather than separate? Because it's like it'd be like there's two people inside of you. One's the banker, one's the coach. But that isn't true. You're one soul. You're
Yes.
sovereign. So how do you hear what I'm saying, and what value might there be in you going to your inner master and answering your own question?
So I do carry, thank you. I do carry my banking wisdom, and actually, the banking years taught me how fragile human relationships are. You
Hmm.
know, because I will be having two surgeons, accountants, corporate lawyers sitting in front of me with their investments. And within 5 minutes, they'll say, "Oh, you can only talk to our joint accounts, not our personal accounts." And I used to think sometimes my screen says you're married for 10 years, 20 years, 15 years. I know both of your accounts and you don't want to share. And just because I have a banking tag. Or sometimes people will come and say, very highly qualified, "Oh, my daughter doesn't talk to me. It's been 5 years," or "My son has doesn't even talk to us," or "We have no hardly any relationship." And I used to think, how come people with every degree don't give anything for the relationship? And then I used to see they're living a lot of life for their career and looking for more job securities. So, literally, banking is the basis that taught me to get more on relationship, human values. So, I do carry that wisdom. But the part where I still lose is when my numbers don't show up, I'm working, and that's the part I struggle with. That I have worked or I have been putting all this efforts, but I don't get clients and I don't get anybody signing up. And I do agree then definition of enrollment that you have given today is the right definition rather than the definition we usually carry in our minds that somebody signed up for X number of sessions with us and paid us. So that is helpful, but still that number thing keeps showing up in my mind, and that's where I need to
Okay.
tone it
So,
down.
so thank you for being so honest. So let's try something on
Mhm,
and let's see if it fits, because I don't know if it'll fit or not. So here's what I suspect. We talked earlier about banking and service consciousness or enrollment, but what if it's really about you being in your linear mind
mhm,
versus your body or your heart? And what if you could integrate your heart in your head?
mhm.
How do you hear that? What am I saying to you?
No, that.
Drop it. In fact, right now, if you're willing,
Mhm,
drop into your body.
mhm.
Because when you start talking about banking, you went right to your head.
Yes.
And that's okay. It's not wrong. It's
Yes.
just not, you're not fully employing the
Yes.
entirety of your power.
Mhm.
And beingness comes from the entirety of who we're being, not just our head, not just our body, not just our heart. So you'll hear me at times be very linear, but I'll also catch myself and go, wait a minute, I feel the heat rising to my head. And then I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to get distance between stimulus and response to, and I'm going to drop into my body because I want to feel
Yes.
the people around me. So, how do you hear that? And what practices could you employ to be fully in your beingness, body, mind, heart, and soul?
Oh, that's bang on. I totally hear you and understand. I am pretty spiritual and I do practices morning and evening. But I think I still have to integrate a little bit more, and especially in the situation when the mind is a little bit too chatty, that I have to get more in my heart and more in my being rather than just getting into that mode where I feel okay, nothing is working, or just some kind of insecurities show up.
When you start to move to your head, where do you feel it in your body?
I'll say more in my head only.
You feel it, do you feel it rise to your head or do you just feel it in your head?
It rises to my head.
And when you're in your heart, where do you feel it?
Right here, the vibrations are there, and I just think that nothing exists over here. It's all over here.
All in the heart chakra area.
Yes.
So hand on your heart now, if you're willing, in front of us, and drop to that place. And then as you're holding your hand on your heart, share a story, a short story about something that's beautiful or valuable to you. It could be a puppy, a kitten, a sunrise. Share it with us. And I want you all to listen to the difference in the texture.
Today morning, me and my girlfriend, we were walking in the park, and she has three daughters and two boys. And we were just talking about kids. And four of our kids are in college. And she just got a little upset about, they were very clear that they're going to pay their kids all their graduation money, but any post graduation, kids have to fund themselves. But two of the kids decided to go for postgraduate, and they were asking for money, and she was feeling upset.
Okay, Nitu, I'm sorry to interrupt you,
Uh-huh.
but how many could hear the difference in the texture by what she was sharing? If that's, don't raise your hand if you didn't, but I heard a difference in it. What was the essence of that situation? Like in a sentence, what was the essence of it?
There was a shift once I told, just let it go and let the things be whatever way they're going to fall. Don't upset yourself.
Yeah,
And that was a message for me also, because I do the same all the time. And then I have to remind myself, just let it be. Why I'm upsetting myself on small things. They're just going to be the way they're supposed to be.
beautiful. So your practice, and I love your vulnerability today that you're sharing this with all of us. Your practice is to slow down and get distance between stimulus and response. And one way to do that is to just to put your hand here and ground it. And then over time, you integrate heart and head, and then you'll be speaking from an essence rather from just linear.
Mhm.
Can you hear that?
Yes,
Are you willing to practice that?
absolutely. Thank you for this mantra. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Your essence is beautiful, and it's like we all want to do that.
Thank you.
You know, slow ourselves down. Let us slow the whole conversation down. Like, what are we in a hurry for?
Yeah.
Where are we trying to get? Enrollment, we're not trying to get anywhere. And so you'll feel that in the texture of another human being. So thank you for what you brought for us today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Let's see. I see Veronica's hand up. Genoa, did you still want to share? Did you move on?
Kind of some of my question was answered, but I'm happy to share. So
And then Veronica will be back to you next.
yeah, so I think the first part of the question is I came from finance background, surprisingly. Now there's three of us. More. But I think the part that shifted for me, not just only from finance to coaching, is through my own transformation journey, which now I know it's the hero's journey, the last 7 years. I moved from being very logical, scientific, analytical type of person into spirituality, which was new to me. So I've never before considered myself religious or spiritual. But I think the challenge that I have is everyone who knows me know me in this specific way, and me becoming more conscious and spiritual. It took me a while to even start speaking to my community about it, about the shift, because I used to be judgmental about people who are spiritual and religious. So, that's how I used to be. So I think there's the part of me, I was like, are they going to accept me with this new identity? So I started, I think, eventually opening up, but then in public, I still hesitate and think that people are going to judge me if they think that like now she's becoming more like woo. So there is this hesitation, and, the identity shift is there, no doubt about it. But to be fully out there as a spiritual person, there's hesitation around it. And I do executive and leadership coaching. So I wonder if you can have anything to say about that.
Well, I don't really have anything to say other than I can appreciate and understand. And I think most of us can appreciate and understand when we move from one identity way of being to the next. So you're really inventing, creating a new identity in a way, except for the fact that you are, in my opinion, I could be wrong, but you're a spiritual being having a human experience. So for what reason would you hide who you are?
I mean, like everyone, even from my small family and everyone I know, is not on board with this change. So I think this is where like it become like save the trouble to try to. I think initially when I became more spiritual, I was trying to convert everyone around me. I was like, spirituality, like even my kids and my husband, I was like, no, don't even talk to us about this. So I stopped. But then I think there's this feeling, it's almost like they worry about me, that she's kind of going into this direction that they don't know. Like I think like I have more compassion for them now. I think initially I was upset. I was like, you're not supporting me. But now I have more compassion because they don't get it. And I have respect for that. I don't feel the need to really share with them anything that I'm learning or any new experience that I'm having. So I know that when the student is ready, the teacher will show up. So that part I worked on. But me feeling fully owning this new identity, there's still a bit of hesitation around it.
Well, one of the words I heard you say is convert. And when any of us try to convert, we're in trouble because we're now projecting something onto another human being. So it's like trying to get something.
Yeah.
So if I was trying to convert you into a timeshare, like I'm trying to sell you a timeshare, you would feel it and you would resist it. So I don't know that you would, but you probably would. Most of us do because
Yeah.
we don't like being converted. Nobody likes being converted. So the best thing you can do is demonstrate it. Just be it. I wouldn't even talk about it.
Yeah. And what about, I think I'm doing this at home, but what about clients? I work with executives. I am open with them on one-on-one, and I find they're open halfway through when the trust is there to actually doing some of the deeper work. So I meet them where they are, and a lot of them they are open to do because I'm trained on somatic coaching and unconscious reprogramming, so a lot of like deeper stuff. But in terms of my like, back to social media, like I really want to share more about my journey. But then there's this hesitation. Am I going to be accepted? Because I think LinkedIn, all the people is from my MBA and from my corporate, career and all of this stuff. They know me a specific way. And then I feel like, are they going to accept me in this new way? So there is this hesitation. It's almost like if you're familiar with the hero's journey, is like I'm at the top, I'm completed the journey, but there's this resistance to return. There's this kind of tiny bit, like I know there's a little bit of hesitation and I would fully embody this new identity, but there's this thing and I'm trying to be slow with it and allow it its space and surrender to that it's gonna take whatever it's gonna take. But then the old identity where I'm like used to be doing is like I can't be like just being, it become like, I need to have the balance between both. But there's this kind of like I know I need this nudge to come the full circle, but yet it's taking too long and I'm losing my patience.
Okay. So may I be really clear with you?
Yes, please.
So what I'm hearing is you're teaching leadership. Let that sink in. You're teaching leadership and you're not being a leader. Do you think leaders are always accepted by leading and being progressive? We stand alone at times. So your subject is leadership, and yet you're withholding your leadership because you're afraid you're not going to be accepted. So how can you teach leadership when you're afraid you're not going to be accepted? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and that's the ironic part with us being coaches, because the assumption is like we have it all figured out. And yes, I've done a lot of work, but I'm still struggling with some of the stuff that I am helping my clients work through, and I'm good at it. I just need to remember doing the same thing and more often, But
Be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with yourself and give yourself the dignity of your own process. But be honest about where you are in the process. Because as a leader, we will not be accepted by everyone around us. Because at this time on the world, I believe there's a lot of people suffering, a lot of people isolated, a lot of people that are divided. And so your message has never been more important, and some people aren't going to like your message. But I've never known a great leader that everybody likes their message. Now you can deliver it with power, neutrality, and grace. That will help. I wrote an article, and by the way, I invite everyone, if you're interested, I write something every week, and I'll give you my email address. You can send me an email. I'll make sure you're on my email blast list. But I got like 300 responses from the one I put out this last week, and it was called The Defenseless Leader.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah, that was really
Did
good.
you see that?
Yeah.
So it's like that's your practice. And just this awareness that at times it's going to be wildly uncomfortable as we lead, and that's okay. Accept that. Like rather than wanting people to accept you, I would say your work, and I mean this with a full heart, your practice is to accept yourself. And as you accept yourself, you'll make mistakes along the way sometimes, and sometimes it'll go splendidly. But it's all part of the process. And what we do is we make it right and wrong. Like it's better when we send out a post and everyone likes it. But that's the great matrix, right, people? That's the matrix, like wanting we want to be approved of. Hey, Ralph, good to see you, brother.
You too,
We
brother.
want people to, always like what we put out. That's craziness. That isn't going to happen. Sometimes we're going to shake things up. And you have it in you. Where'd you go on the screen? The screen moved. There you are. You're a powerful woman. Define power for me. What does power mean?
Um, Power is being true to myself.
Beautiful. And I would say being true to yourself to the degree that when you have a clear intention, how long does it take to manifest that intention as you're being true to yourself? So
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, this is where I think this is where the issue for me is right now. Is like because of everything that I wanted to do, I feel is not aligned to the community that I'm part in, and I'm overthinking. Should I put it out? Should I not? Right? So this is where, and that's new to me because I'm type 3 on the Enneagram. I don't know if you're familiar with the Enneagram, but I'm like all about achieving and doing. That's how I've created my success in the past. But there is this overthinking, which is new to me as well, because, I'm used to like, I think of the idea and it's out there. But the shift in identity is making me, so in a way, I know you were talking before about the alignment, like I'm intuitive, but then I used to use my mind all the time. And then now when I'm trying to do the alignment, it's like like it's almost like I want to learn how to trust this process more. and trust it more. So I was like, okay, I'm not relying fully on my brain now, which I know it was successful when I did that, but I'm not fully aligned, all three of me, to trust this new system yet, right? So there's all system that created success, new system that I like it, I want to keep it, but I don't have enough proof of concept to fully surrender to it. I don't know if you're getting me.
Proof of concept. I get it. So,
Yeah.
again, I've asked for clarity to speak honestly with you, and you've agreed. So,
Yeah,
what I'm going to
yes,
say to
please.
you
Yeah.
next is for me, and it's for everyone listening. You are arguing for your limitation.
Hmm.
When you say to me, I have an issue, you now have an issue. I don't see that you have an issue. And the narrative that you're sharing with us is working against you because you're proving evidence that you have a problem with your narrative. So I'm not saying don't be real. I'm not saying don't be honest, but share with us a couple sentences about what's going well with you as a leader and how you want to expand that as service and enrollment. Like, ask the right question in your beautiful mind. Can you hear what I'm saying?
Um, kind of. Can you say it in another way?
How could you be more forgiving about your own process? You're just in a process,
Mm.
and it's a learning process. But if you're claiming you have an issue and your narrative around that issue is so potent, it will be an issue for a very long time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think, and I don't want to take other people's time, but to me, I think every time I think I figured out how, like the direction, I hit a dead end. And that's why I think the issue become an issue. It's like, okay, I'm trying this, it's not working. I'm trying this, it's not working. I'm trying this. So now I'm questioning the identity itself. Is that the issue, right? So it's just I'm very experimental. Like I try things, and if it doesn't work, because I'm getting used to the new version of me. And I want to be able to understand her. So it's almost like I'm rediscovering who I am and creating a new healthy relationship with my authentic self. Sometimes it works. Sometimes I feel like, okay, I don't know her. Who is she? And this is where like it's a process, and maybe the part is about patience, or maybe it's just more really surrender more to the whole process. But there's this kind of itchiness to as like I feel like I am not where I need to be, and I'm always like chasing something.
I hear that. And you also said something really true, which is you're experimenting. So in an experiment, it's like there's things that go well and things that don't go well, quote unquote, but it's all good. I would experiment on letting the chips fall where they may.
Mm.
Because you're kind, you're loving, you're thoughtful. I feel your energy. It's like this isn't a problem. It's only a problem when I make it a problem. But we're all shifting and changing. Who I am today is different than who I was yesterday. And I'm certainly way different than I was 30 years ago. You wouldn't even have recognized me. But it's an iteration. What I say is it's a process, not an event. And I would invite you to consider maybe you're looking for an event, like you wake up
Mm.
one day and you got it. But no, it's an iteration, it's iterative, but it's true for all of us, it's universal. So there's no problem here.
Okay, that's good.
So try that as an experiment
I'm gonna give it a try. Yes, yes.
and be patient with yourself. I feel like you're being hard on yourself in a way that isn't necessary because you're willing to learn and grow. That's all that's required. How do you feel about what I'm saying?
It feels good. Yes, it landed well. Yeah, I think what you said about patience, and also is there is no problem. You know,
There's
like,
not a problem.
you need, like, there's a problem, you need a solution to feel good about it. But I've never thought about there's not even a problem to start with, right?
There's a process. How many of us are in a process? We're all in a process. It's called being human. And you're just in a process, but one with has a lot of awareness. I hear you having a lot of awareness. So two things: demonstrate who you're being and give yourself some grace.
Thank you.
You're doing beautifully. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, breathe it in. There you go. I watched your shoulders go down about 1/4 of an inch.
Oh, okay. You're very observant.
There's no problem here. There's a process here. That's it.
Thank you.
Beautiful sharing. And thank you for serving us all by being so willing to be vulnerable in a group. Veronica, do you still have a question? And then we'll move to Ralph.
Well, thank you so much, first of all, and everybody sharing as well, because whatever questions come on the table, they really resonate, at least with me. So everything is very useful. There's no time wasted at all, just so that there is not taking time from us. Everything is learning. So thank you. And what comes is more than a question, is a comment that I feel my heart is full of gratitude for this beautiful space and all the wisdom, the expertise, and the heart and soul that you have shared. And for me, whatever, like, when a tooth is about to come out and you're a kid and it's hanging there and it's hanging and it's about to come and you're like, should I pull it? Well, for me, this space did that final little pull, a bit like Julie, because I've been spiritual all my life. I also had another professional side to me, but my whole being is about the soul. And as I got myself going from yoga and Reiki and all this path to coaching, I had so many people from the outside world. Oh, you can't say you're also a yoga instructor. You can, and I'm like, no, but this is my identity. This is part of my being. I made my life be the walk I want to see in the world. And this is the embodiment of who I am. And whoever is going to resonate, I don't need to please everybody. But the thing is that this has freed me up. Everything that has been discussed here on the table in terms of enrollment, as that path of full service that is okay, because it's so aligned with, like, my yoga path is about serving and giving and loving from the heart, and with the center on others and not the individuality, but the collective. And it's almost that this has given that final permission for that release. And with the release and the surrendering, there is a sense of freedom that is okay to just dive into the service without any of the expectations, without worrying about, will this transform or manifest into any clients? But because that's where my heart has been really like a tsunami wanting to go, and I find myself doing it regardless. It's just that occasionally there is a judge in me that says, oh, it's wrong because you didn't transform that. You didn't even try. I'm so engaged into the serving that I don't even try to put an offer on the table. It doesn't cross my mind. And then I'm hanging up or detaching from that conversation. It's like, what's wrong with me? You're never going to get anywhere like that. But the honest truth is that, and this is what resonated with me, is the surrendering that goes aligned with the trusting and the faith and the believing. It's almost like it becomes so embodied that it's like a living force of being. And I thank you for that, because it's been very liberating. It's giving me permission that it's okay to continue serving. And I'm going to do one analogy, because it's a spring here finally in Canada. And I find myself watering like soil that is just soil. There's nothing in it. And I had a neighbor the other day come by and says, what the heck are you doing? You're watering like dirt. And I'm like, well, because I know what I've sown, has been sown the previous season. I know there's tulips and there's all sort of seeds in there. So I know and I trust that something, it may not be the seed I planted, it may be the one that came through a bird that had a little poot right there, but I'm still watering because I know. So that's where I am on this path. And through this process of sharing this space, I feel that there's a garden that is going to just bloom for all of us, as long as we're heart-centered and we put our focus on that service to others, and furthermore on the collective. And I thank you. So it's a gratefulness comment.
Thank you for your beautiful share and for your metaphor. The fruits will come.
Yes.
the fruits will come. Plant the seeds, water the garden, pull the weeds, the fruits will come. Beautiful.
Mhm.
Thank you, Veronica.
You're most welcome. Thank you for the inspiration.
Well, I'm inspired. I'm inspired by each and every one. We're all in this together, team, people. What we're doing now is perhaps the most important thing that could be done on the planet,
Mhm.
and being caring and being loving and being of service. We're the leaders. And that's not against anybody. That's just for something. Mother Teresa used to say, I'm not against war, I'm for peace. So be asking yourself, what am I for? And I feel that with this, feel the sacred space here. Like, what if the world could relate this way? Like, we can disagree and we can still be aligned. Can you all hear that? That's what I practice. I don't practice agreement. I worked with too many teams. They never agree. Teams don't agree. They never agree on the launch date of the product. They never agree on who should be the boss. They never agree on what's the next action, but they can be aligned. And so that's why I spoke to alignment earlier. Robert, we still have time for me to take Ralph?
Yeah, still have time. We have about another 15
Okay.
minutes or so.
My brother, what you got today?
It's inspired, firstly, apologies, I couldn't come till now. It's inspired by the two previous shares. So I learned an important lesson in taking a stand for clients and my professionalism to that actually one of the most loving things I can do is propose a fee in order to invite someone into a sacred, concentrated focus space where I share my genius and they get to show up for theirs. So that was inspired by the last share from Veronica, but not taking away from any of the beauty of what you said, Veronica. Just that sometimes charging for a service can be one of the most loving acts. And the previous share, you asked for a definition of power. And I know you're a leadership coach. So in community leadership, I had this distinction: the power to and the power for, never the power over anyone. And another lesson I've learned this year is in serving others with the power to and for and not over people, I was still in judgment of myself and therefore, exerting power over myself, my own personal power. And there's a distinction by a rapper called KRS-One. It's just a skit on an album, and there's a guy that's knocking on the door, and one of his guys says, teacher, teacher, there's someone at the door. And he says, and then he says, oh, it's the authorities at the door. And KRS-One says, I am the authority. So that's a reminder that we are the authority on our own lives as we have this evolution. And then a final distinction that's just been inspired by what I've heard is, I've done a lot of work with the Black diaspora and people that have come from former colonies of Britain. And there's this term, divide and rule. And I sat with it for a long time and thought, well, there's divide and rule. What would be the way that we actually lead in the world? And it would be unite and share in my experience. And again, bringing it to the personal, which is, if we're in universal beingness and oneness, I need to unite and then share the parts of myself, the disparate parts, the growth. So I just wanted to share those things. I'm always excited to be in a room with you, and I'm learning a lot about leadership. And as I've learned from Steve Hardison, it starts in the home, and of course that starts with self. Not an egotistical self, but an awareness of the holistic self and the connection with oneness.
Yeah.
That was inspired by those two beautiful shares and someone being open to, to receive your wisdom. So with such grace.
Thank you so much, Ralph, for that sharing. One of the things I heard that I'm going to take from what you said is the unitedness inside of me. Like, how do yeah, I think you said disparate parts. Like, how do I bring all those parts together in alignment? And it's like at times in my life, I might have hit shadowland of myself, and that would not work for me because it is part of who I am. So I may not want to lead with that, but to be united inside myself is to be united in the world. And so, Ralph, thank you for that clarification and that wisdom.
My pleasure. And it's learned from activism. I've seen a lot of activists with good intention lead, but they're not united within themselves. They're often, serving from an empty cup, and they're not united within the team that they have. That, as you said, there's no alignment, and then they're leading people down a road that can become very bitter. And it's really important. What I've learned from the coaching world, which I used to be skeptical of, is personal development isn't a selfish act, nor is charging for coaching, nor is investing in ourselves for coaching, if it leads us to more aligned, beautiful leadership where we then exert the power that we generate within ourselves to and for the planet, people, and then profit, which is almost a byproduct. It happens on the side of beautiful service, which is how I experience you.
Well, Ralph, I mean, I don't think I could speak adequate words to share my experience of how I've watched you, observed you grow. The leadership in you is emerging through just who you're being in such a profound way, and the way, and I can hear the wisdom in your words, like in your consciousness. And I just, I guess we first met in January, right, of 2025, right after my home burned down in the Pali fire. And so just this last year, Ralph, a little over a year, like, wow, just like this. So that's why I say earlier to Jinhua, it's like such a process, but that there's growth and iterations of growth happening exponentially. So again, just honor you. I honor you.
Thank you, brother. And it can't be done in isolation. And the last lesson I'll share is never do the hardest or most challenging things alone. My brother Matt there, who's at work listening in, Robert's just inspired me so powerfully by inviting me into this space, and none of us can do it in isolation. I'll leave it there because there'll hopefully be 10 minutes for someone else.
Okay, good. Sepida?
Yes, Stephen, thank you so much. You pronounce it very well. Okay. I just wanted to thank all of you, Robert, for inviting us to such an environment, you, Stephen, for such an amazing insight, and everybody for all you brought here. So I appreciate all of you. And I just wanted to say that it was very powerful session, and I'm leaving here with two things. One thing that it really affects me is the change of the wording enrolling in people's life. That was huge for me. Yeah, the word enrolling people's in their own lives, So what you mentioned, it brought so much. It gave me another perspective, which I wanted to appreciate for that. And actually, one of the perspective I got from this, it's because I realized actually today was a day that I was a little bit demotivated in this journey of coaching business. But I'm so happy that I came here because I got inspired with the fact that there are sometimes opportunities all around us, not sometimes, all the time, I would say. Opportunities is out there. How much we are limiting ourselves and allowing ourselves to be able to see it, that's the whole thing. And I realized that I was limiting myself with such a wrong thinking that I would only create conversation with the people that ask for help. And there are some people that they are not specific asking for help. However, they would like to start the conversation, which I am not engaging myself in, just because I thought, oh, this person is not asking that he wants coaching, but he's so like sending me different types of so many comments on the things I share on the social media, and I just keep it all. And thank you so much for your wisdom. And maybe I need to get involved, in those type of conversation with the people, not to enroll them in my business, but just enrolling them in their life. So I don't know if I'm clear, but thank you so much. The opportunity was there. I was not seeing it. So this allowed me to be able to go and talk to the people. Don't wait for the people to ask for, oh, can you coach us? How we can book you? But just involve myself in the conversation of how I would be in the service for them. So that was a huge thing for me. I appreciate that.
It's so well said. I think it's a great summary of so much of what we've talked about. What I hear you saying is that we just live as a demonstration to it. And
Yes.
that's enough. It's the back to the story of Steve Hardison and the busboy, like,
Yes, exactly. That is actually where I got the insight because I realized, whoa, I am putting limitation. Oh,
yeah. So, and I just find my life is so rich and full, whether it's the landscaper or the barista at the coffee shop, or it's someone that was
yes,
referred to me that's a public CEO. It's all the same. It's no different. And now I don't have to perform. I just
yes,
get to be present.
yes.
Mr. Clemmer.
Mm.
Hello, my brothers and sisters.
Hello, Matt.
I love you, Stephen. Thank you for serving us today so openly, so wholeheartedly, Robert. Thank you for organizing this. Thank you for inviting us. Um, Man, what a beautiful conversation. I'd like to share a couple things that came up, but before I do, can I get clarity in the beginning? You mentioned, I think you said the words around, you were calling it something along the lines of discretional energy. What did you say?
Discretionary energy.
Okay. And is that really pointing to where we're discreet of living our authentic self, holding back, not fully being honest and real in the moment and holding that energy back? Is that what you're speaking to?
Yes. So you're a living example, Matt, of sharing your generosity. So some of us, and at times in my life, I've been stingy with my loving or stingy with my thoughts or stingy with my listening. So discretionary energy is when we move from that to the full generosity of who we're being. So we're not withholding. So in a workplace, teams often show up, and there's studies that say that 70% of the people that work in an organization are withholding their discretionary energy. They're punching the clock. They're doing what they have to do, but no more. And this is not fulfilling for human beings. We are most fulfilled, from my experience, when we're sharing of all of the discretionary creativity we have available to us through God, through Source, through Spirit. Matt, you're a living example of discretionary energy, my brother.
My God, I love that. Oh, you brought up so much. You brought up for us to learn to get out the way, you know, to get to operate not from our head, but from our heart. For so long, I was operating from the eyes in my head, and now my heart has eyes, right? You brought up AI, and I just love, all of us being created by a creator, to be creators, to walk and be led and taught by the Spirit has leveled the playing field in life, and no one can be you. Um, And I've always realized the two favorite people we usually meet in our lifetime is either one, the person that's most comfortable in their own skin, and B, the one that makes you feel the most comfortable in yours when you're with them. And we've realized today there have been so many tests of quantum physics and things that can almost quantify and gauge frequencies that the human emotions emit. And now they can like gauge like the power of sadness, the emotion of anger and love and fear. And love is the highest, most powerful frequency, but apparently there is one that rings in even higher, runs tandem with love, but the most powerful frequency is authenticity. It's what we can all sense and feel, kind of like you were sharing that. And I love in the beginning clarifying enrollment isn't we're trying to get something or trying to get somewhere as much as where are we coming from versus where are we trying to go and who are we being versus doing, and being led by the Spirit versus us trying to figure it all out and have it all together and get there versus learning to be right here. So it's just reminded us so much of that beauty, and even the ancient scripture that says he's a lamp unto our feet, a light unto our path. I don't know about you, but I was standing out in my backyard. It was pitch black one night and I couldn't see far out in front of me. And I pretended to have a lamp at my feet and bent over and clicked it on and it illuminated. Now can I see way out there? No, but I can see the next 3 steps in front of me, and I trust and take them, and the lamp comes with me, illuminating. Now can I see way out? No, but I can see the next 3 steps, trusting and knowing that source is out, not only with me, but out in front of me, preparing the way. And once I get there, I will be shown how to take those 3, being led and trusting the process and kind of getting out the way. And I don't know about you all, but I have had my ass handed to me walking on my own in the dark, trying to figure it out without my lamp.
I love you, Matt, and I can't think of a better way to complete, what we've said today, and especially on the subject of discretionary energy. You just are being that. You just exemplify that. And I'll never forget the first time I met you and the hug that you gave to me at a time when I was broken. And you just I felt the love transmit from your body into mine. You filled me up so much. I'll never forget that moment that we shared at the snack bar at a hotel
Yes.
in Phoenix,
Yeah.
Arizona. Oh my God.
Mhm.
That's generous, and that's just pure love, my brother. So thank you for being you.
Thank you, Stephen. I love you.
I
Thank you,
love
Robert.
you.
All right. Thank you to everybody who had a question. Thanks for your presence, everybody that showed up, everything that you did to be here today. And thank you, Stephen, for coming and sharing your presence and your wisdom and your time and your energy with us. Very grateful for your presence and for your time. And the next coaches networking group is coming up. We're going to have the next one in May 27th. Carolyn Fryer Jones is going to be here, which is amazing. And if you haven't got her book, the Total Coaching Success book yet, please get that and read it before that call. That would be phenomenal. You'll get the most out of it that way. And Stephen, I put your email in the chat. And anybody here, do you want to get connected with Stephen and his email if you didn't catch it in the chat? Just let me know. And I'd love it if you would share with me. I can share with everyone and get them connected to the resources that you said you had earlier, Stephen.
You bet. I'll share all I've got with anybody here that's interested. So
Wonderful.
I want everyone to hear something now before we sign off, and that is the gift. And today was for me. You gifted me. I'm grateful to be here. So this isn't about me showing up as some kind of wise person or whatever. I'm gifted by your presence, and you lifted me today. So God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Stephen.
Have a great day, everyone.
See y'all.